Hello everyone, Neve here, and today I am doing the tarot tag, I think it's the hashtag mid-year tarot 2025, something like that. And of course this was started by Chanel Days. She does this tag like every year, and I'm always happy to participate. I just went through and picked out all my decks, and here we go. All right, so number one is the deck used the most so far in 2025, and this was a little tricky. Like, I do record all the decks that I use in my tarot journal or spiritual journal here, and I have a list in the back of all of each month. I list through all the decks that I used, and so far I haven't listed anything in May, but I often go through and fill this out later because I'm kind of bad at that, at doing it as it happens. But anyway, so I went through and just kind of counted a little bit, and because I really do rotate a lot, and so I was just so there weren't really any, like, a lot of repeats. There were a few that I repeated, but I only repeated them like once. So I only used them like twice, during the months. So I kind of just picked one. And so I went with, here it is, the Crow Tarot. And the Crow Tarot is a deck that this deck I have specifically dedicated to on Morrigan, the goddess, the Irish goddess. So a lot of times I use this deck with on Morrigan during new moon specifically. So I mean, it makes sense that I would use this one frequently during the year. I haven't used it every new moon for on Morrigan because I do sometimes use other decks with her, but this deck is specifically dedicated to her. So so I use this a few times this year. So I'm pretty sure we've all seen the Crow Tarot. It's so I don't necessarily need to go through all of it. I do love this deck. I kind of wish I had the independent version instead of the mass market one, only because that I've found that I really enjoy the cardstock for MJ Cullinane's independent decks and not the mass market ones. Like, this is fine. I had to get used to this cardstock, but it's a little difficult for my hands. My hands are very small, so and even the independent decks from MJ Cullinane, they are they're larger, but they're kind of thin, and they have a linen coating on them, so they're actually quite easy for me to shuffle. I usually side shuffle those ones, but this one, I mean, I've gotten used to the cardstock a bit, but I love using it for on Morrigan, of course, and pretty good messages usually from this deck. All right, so I am going to put this one away, and we'll move on to the next one. Gonna take a sip of my kombucha here. All right. Okay, so the next prompt is a new deck. So, and I actually had a couple different things listed for this. Only because I think this tarot tag is meant to be specifically tarot, but I'm not sure. But I did have like some oracle decks listed for some of these prompts, but I went back and changed them to tarot decks that made sense for these prompts. So yeah, so a new deck that I got, and most of the decks that I've gotten this year have been oracles, so that's why I had a few different ones in this category here. But I did get a tarot, and it was pretty recently. I bought it for myself for Mother's Day, and it's the Tarot Landscapes, and this has been a great deck, and I've only used it a few times. It's pretty brand new, but I used it for one of my weekly, my nightly readers for a full week. But this deck has also, I almost chose this one. I initially had it for the prompt for the biggest surprise, but I switched it out for something else because I needed an actual tarot for this one. But I mean, I'll say what was surprising about this deck for me is that this is, so this is a mass market deck, and I really wanted to find a deck that I felt like I could be immersed in the deck. I'm thinking like what's that deck? The Spacious Tarot. That's the one I was thinking of. So like I'm thinking like the Spacious Tarot, or the Majestic Earth Tarot, or the Tildwick Tarot, something like that, where it's kind of a scenery, or something you can like immerse yourself into, and that's kind of what I was looking for. And you know, there's various reasons why I haven't yet gotten the other ones. I should probably get on, if I still really want the Spacious Tarot, I should probably get on that ASAP, because I think it's going out of print, but I'm not sure. And I can't get the Tildwick Tarot because it's honestly just too expensive. When you add in the shipping, and then convert it to US dollars, it's going to be over $100 to get it out to me. And I just, for me personally, that's just a little too much, you know? And then the other one I was thinking, oh, the Majestic Earth is like long out of print. That's like almost impossible to get. So, but then this deck came out, and it kind of solved that problem a little bit that I was having of trying to find a very immersive deck, specifically for kind of pathworking or meditation purposes. Sorry about the light changing, by the way. The sun keeps going behind clouds, so the light keeps getting really bright and they're really dark. But anyway, and this is a mass market deck, so of course it's pretty cheap. I think it was like $24 maybe. And I got it at Barnes & Noble when we went out for Mother's Day. But I gotta say, like, my first experience with this deck was quite moving. I mean, because the artwork, it's not as realistic as, say, the Majestic Earth, and it's not, and it's kind of light and I don't want to say fluffy, but it's got a very stylized artwork to it. But it worked so well for the intention that I had for it, which was kind of that meditation, pathworking sort of thing. And yeah, so that's the surprise for this one. And, you know, I initially had it for greatest surprise, but I did end up picking a different deck for that category. So I'll get to that when I get to it. But yeah, the only complaint I have with this deck is that the cardstock is not great. And I'm going to keep it out for a second because that kind of connects to the next prompt. But yeah, but I've other than the cardstock, I've really, really enjoyed this deck, and it was a very, very good purchase for me, I think. So I'm really happy, and I bought this one for myself for Mother's Day. So, but I'm going to leave this out because the next prompt is a deck that could be better, and so obviously this one could be better because it could be better cardstock. I can't really riffle this. It's kind of it's really kind of thick and not very bendy, and you know, they're standard tarot size, but because they're kind of thick, I cannot fully reach my, like, I'm gonna try to get under the camera. Sorry if the sound changes a bit, but like I can't even get my fingers around it. Like, I'm already dropping cards because I cannot get my fingers around it. And these are not like huge cards or anything. They're standard tarot size, but the thickness of the cards make it impossible for me to riffle these. So yeah, so I wish that was different. But I'm keeping it out because the one I actually chose is the Great Outdoors, Tarot of the Great Outdoors. Love the bag I made for it. And this is actually a super, super great deck. But this version, the first version that came out, has absolutely terrible cardstock, which I've talked about lots of times on this channel. But thankfully, as far as I heard, the company has heard our complaints and on this issue, and has actually brought out the deck again in much better cardstock. So, and I can't speak to the cardstock that's come out. And this has like the opposite problem of this, whereas this is really like thick and hard to bend. This one is like, it's like paper thin. Like, oh my God, yeah, I'm afraid I will tear this when I'm just normal shuffling it. And that's my biggest gripe with this deck. But, you know, it is nice that it shuffles like really, really well. You know? because I got a nice riffle there and then a nice bridge, but like it definitely leaves a bow in it as I'm shuffling it, and I'm always sort of afraid these are gonna like tear because that's how thin they are. Now I left it out with this because I've actually been using these two decks together during my nightly tarot readings. I was using this deck as an oracle along with this deck as the tarot, and these two decks, I know they're both tarot, but my goodness, they go together so well because we have, like, they're both outdoors themed, you know. I mean, this one is a little bit different, but like, you know, because it's buildings, but that makes sense for the Emperor. But they go together. The colors go together really, really well. Even the art style is compatible. Like, it's not the same, but it's comparable. It's compatible with each other, and it's really a lovely combination. And I find that when I was using it, this combination, I was almost sort of forgetting that this was a tarot deck, because I was like at first just immersing myself in the actual imagery. Take a chunk off here, and then like looking at the card meaning secondary. I was like feeling the or you know, doing that immersive thing that I've discovered with this deck, and getting a sort of feeling like that, and it's like this was a secondary to that, and then combined with this deck on either side was just, it was a lovely reading. So that was also one of the biggest surprises. So I had a few options for that, but yeah, so that my pick for a deck that could be better would be the Tarot of the Great Outdoors, but supposedly right now it is better. I just have this version, and so this version of the deck, yeah, I wish it was better, and maybe someday I'll get the newer edition, but love the bag though. Super fun bag. All right. So the next prompt is a deck you're currently using, and it's another brand new deck, also another one that I got for Mother's Day, and that is the Ignis Arcana. And by the way, I will be doing walkthroughs of this deck, and there's a third deck that is also new. I got 3 decks for Mother's Day, so I'm going to speak about all 3 of them in this video, and they will eventually each have their own video. But yeah, so all of last week for my nightly reader has been the Ignis Arcana, and this is of course by Taylor Bryn. Love it. My husband got this for me. So excited. And I'm actually going to pull it out with the deck that I was pairing with it, and that is the Green Glyphs Oracle. So I'm going to split this here, and we'll check that out. Okay, so I loved this combination. This was great, and I've said before that I've had the hardest time pairing other decks with the Green Glyphs just because of the odd coloring of the cards. They tend not to go well with a lot of different decks, but one thing I have discovered that they go really well with other decks is decks that are really busy like this, and don't have borders. They go all the way to the edge, and there's a lot of busyness, a lot of detail work in there, a lot of detailed line work. That seems to go very well with this deck. And by the way, I love when birds show up on this, just because this deck has so many dinosaurs. So it's kind of funny when when I get a bird as the card in between. Yeah, so of course this is part of an ongoing series by Taylor Bryn, and it is an element series, and I know they're working on an air deck. I just saw some images on Instagram, so definitely gonna get that. I also have the Ocean Tarot. So I had asked my husband to get me a deck for Mother's Day, and I had 2 decks on there, and I said choose between these 2 decks, and it was the Ignis Arcana, which is of course what he chose, and the Terra Arcana because I have the ocean one, but I don't have the I didn't have the earth or the fire one, and And it was no surprise to me that he ended up picking the Ignis Arcana, because this one's got dinosaurs. And, you know, and I may have even nudged that a little bit, because I was like, hey, this one's got dinosaurs. So dinosaurs are hard to pass up on, you know? So I was really pleased, and not surprised at all, but very pleased with his choice there. So, and I did spend all last week doing a combination of this deck with this deck, and I quite liked it. Yeah, I think the first day I was trying to, because this is such a small deck, I did 2 cards like that, which is just fine. And maybe in the future I would do that. But I kind of forgot after that first day and just continued to do like this, you know, so with the 1 card. And it wasn't until like the 4th day in that I was like, you know, I think I did 2 cards for the first day, and sure enough I did. But yeah, but, you know, it is what it is. You just, my nightly readings are just go with the flow sort of thing. So, I really love the artwork on these decks, the Arcana decks, I guess is what I'll call them. The element Arcana decks, I guess. But they are quite dark. Because they're so busy, the artwork it's very, very dark. And I don't mind that so much. It's just, as nightly readers, they can be a little difficult to see just because they are so dark, and we're, you know, I'm in bed doing my nightly reading, and there is a light, but, you know, it's, you know, it's bedtime, so the mood is darker, you know, and the lighting mood is darker, and so they're just a little hard to see in certain lighting, and the details are, you know, just because the artwork is so dark. Yeah, like even this, I'm not sure how it's showing up on camera. Maybe it's showing up brighter or lighter, but it's like all of this area, it's very difficult to see. So that would really be my only criticism of their decks, is how dark they are, which I like. You know, I like it because it feels very serious, but maybe they're like a little too dark. I don't know. But anyway, love this combination though. Yeah, there we go. Another bird. Well, leave it on a bird and some, well, that's a dinosaur, and that's kind of like a snake or something. But yeah, there we go. So now I think we're on the biggest surprise. So this was a little difficult for me to pick because I wasn't sure, like, so far, like, my biggest surprise was the tarot landscapes with the Great Outdoors Tarot, and yeah, and how well those went together. But I think I'll say my biggest surprise this year has been accepting that this deck may no longer be in my top 5. So this is one of my oldest decks. This is the So Below Tarot, which I love. I love the So Below Tarot. But, you know, as my deck collection over the past few years has really started to grow, I've been reading tarot for, like, on and off throughout my life since I was a teenager, and I'm in my 40s now, so a very long time. And this was a deck that I've had for, you know, I don't know, like a dozen plus years. You know, I've had this deck for an extremely long time. It's that old Llewellyn cardstock, so it's really thin. So I really don't like the cardstock on this, and I never really have, especially since more independent decks started to come out over the years, and the deck quality has really changed throughout the years. These older decks that are just super thin, they don't feel very sturdy anymore, you know, and that is definitely the case for this one. I love this deck because of the practicality of it, and I love very practical decks, and I love the feel of this deck. It feels like, so these are, it's supposed to have a little bit of a Wiccan slant, but really there's not really any specific Wiccan things in this deck. It's more like general witchy people, or people in the occult spaces or witchcraft spaces. There is like one card that maybe says, like there was a book, I think it's this one, yeah, that has a Wiccan magazine right there. So it does have a reference to Wicca in this, but I don't get a Wiccan slant from this deck, like, at all. It just feels like normal, ordinary people that are maybe of the witchcraft variety, which is like, a lot of us in the pagan, witchy, occultist communities, the tarotist communities. Yeah, so it feels very practical. It feels very relatable. But it's got that little bit of magical element to it because it's witchy. But yeah, it's like a very mundane spirituality, if that makes sense. Like an everyday life spirituality. And that's what it feels like to me, and why I always loved this deck. And for a very long time, this was probably my most practical deck. And that's why it's kind of been firm as my number 2 favorite deck for a very, very long time. So I guess my biggest surprise with this, I don't think I think I used this once this year. But I was thinking about this deck, and I realized that I don't think I would put this in my top 5 anymore. Maybe it would still be in my top 10, I'm not sure, but it's not in my top 5 anymore. And I think that's probably my biggest surprise. Yeah, so my long time number 2 favorite deck is no longer number 2. It's now, I don't know, maybe in the top 10, but no longer in the top 5. So there we go. Biggest surprise. Okay, so deck crush. Yeah, I think I was gonna pick a deck that I don't have yet, but I decided instead to pick one of my decks that I got this year, that I've totally had like a massive crush on, and it's not my most used deck, because I chose the Crow Tarot for that. But I will say that I did use, it's one of the ones that I used more than once. And that is the Zelda Tarot, the Legend of Zelda Tarot. And this is so, so cool. And this is the bag I made for it, which I'm super thrilled with. I put the Majora's Mask on there, and I have this kind of adventures / video game sort of fabric here. And then on the inside is licensed like Zelda fabric, which I really like. And it's got all the symbols and stuff. I love it. Yeah, really, really happy with how the bag turned out. And that certainly adds to my my love of this, my current love obsession with this deck for sure. The cardstock is really great. Unlike that old Llewellyn cardstock that I was talking about, it's thin and bendy, but and I can shuffle it easily, but it's not flimsy like that old cardstock. It's really good cardstock. It's just nice and thin. And this, it's not like my all-time favorite cardstock. That would probably be the Anima Monday. That has the best cardstock ever. But cardstock like this is really a favorite of mine, because I like decks that are thin, but still sturdy, still good quality. The light shifting again, clouds moving. Sorry. But I can, thin enough that I can actually put my hands around it. I can shuffle it easily, riffle shuffling, because that is my preferred shuffling method, and bridge it really easily. That's my favorite cardstock. So bravo on the cardstock. And the deck itself, I mean, I've just flipped through a few cards, but I love this. And I think part of this is that I just finished replaying The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I just replayed that because I played it years and years ago, beat the game and all that. But I started a new game a year or so ago, and I started it on my Switch that I got after I started learning Japanese. And I got that Switch specifically so I could set it in Japanese and play games in Japanese. And I played through. I didn't finish it, but I felt like I didn't really need to finish the game. I'd played it before, so I didn't fight Ganon again. But Yeah, I played it in Japanese, and I didn't understand most of what was happening, and I had to look most things up. But it was still a lot of fun, and it's probably not the best game to play when you're trying to learn a language, because it's not exactly conducive to that. There are better games out there for learning a language, but I was really happy to play it again, and I love seeing all the different Zeldas represented in this deck, and so this is totally a deck crush of mine. It goes really, really well with the Kim Kranz decks. Yeah, it pairs very nicely with the Wild Unknown archetypes and the Wild Unknown animal spirit. Those definitely vibe together. And it goes okay with the True Sight Oracle. It goes well. It just wasn't quite as pleasing as the Wild Unknown decks with this, but yeah. So totally my current deck crush. I want to bring it back into the rotation because my goodness, this is such a fun deck. So maybe in the next couple weeks, I already have a deck picked out for like the next 2 weeks. Two different decks picked out for the next 2 weeks for my nightly readers, but maybe I will make some time for this one. Yeah, all right, so that is my current deck crush, and that is the Legend of Zelda Tarot. So there we go. All right. So the next prompt is a favorite single tarot card from a deck. And normally I would talk about the Sun card from the Pacific Northwest Tarot because that is definitely my favorite. That would really be the honest, true answer to this question, would be the Sun card from that deck, which I'm not going to pull that one out now because I just talked about that in like my last tarot tag video because it was a very similar question, like a favorite tarot card, and so I pulled that one out and talked about it at length. So I didn't want to do that again, even though that one would be the correct answer for this. So I actually pulled out another deck instead, which had a card that I really like in it, and as I was pulling that, as I was talking about going through one of my previous prompts here, I realized there was a card in a different deck that I also really like, so I'm going to show both. All right, so the one that I actually picked out is from the Cosmic Slumber Tarot, and this is the bag I made for it, and I'm keeping the bag out because this card from this deck was actually the inspiration for the bag. So, and that is the Hermit card from this deck, and it's also, I believe, the card that's used on the box, but I don't use the box anymore. I had the the deck in the box in the bag, and that's why the bag is so large. But it's those liminal lemon boxes, which I've come to really kind of despise. So they're too unwieldy and there's too much going on with them. That like a simple box like this is all I really ask for, or even just like a simple tuck box. Like, my goodness, why does it have to be this contraption? Anyway, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is what was on the box. So, but yeah, I love this card. It's so cool, and it was definitely the big inspiration for the bag that I made for it. So yeah, so that was the deck I pulled out. But I wanted to mention that the So Below deck has probably my favorite tower card that I've ever come across, and it's probably my second favorite single tarot card from a deck, and my favorite, of course, being that Sun card from the Pacific Northwest. But here is the Tower card for this deck, and I love this card. Yeah, to me, this is the card that really made me like full on fall in love with this deck, because it's such a real world thing. I mean, first of all, the coloring is perfect because it's got this whole, like, this blue house, which kind of has that somber feel, but also a very calming feel. Like, it was a calm, fine day. I mean, she had a cup of coffee or tea or whatever, and it was a calm day. And then she gets just this devastating news on the phone, and this causes her to accidentally knock over her cup, breaking her cup, spilling her cup everywhere, and then she is all in red. And I mean, this is just a perfect, to me, depiction of a real life tower moment for someone, just receiving that sudden devastating news. And so as far as looks go, I picked this one because I honestly just really like the way it looks. And I still get to the meaning of the Hermit card from this card, but like, this card definitely has the meaning, and I really, really connect to this card. So another reason why it's such a surprise that this deck is probably no longer in my top 5, but I still wouldn't put it in there, even though this is an amazing tower card. So there we go. Okay, on to a happier category, and this prompt is a deck that makes you happy. And so this is another newish deck from this year. I got it near the beginning. Did I get it for Christmas or the beginning of the year? I can't quite remember. But that is the Capybara or the Capybara Tarot. And this is a really cool bag that I made for it. Love it. I love the little capybara bag that I made up, and I embroidered carrots all the way around because this deck has carrots in with the capybaras. So the extra card in here is called The Carrot. So I made sure to put carrots all around. Yeah, so really love the bag and how that turned out. So this is, of course, just a cute deck. And I don't have a lot of these, the decks that are just cute. I love the gilding because it's like a matte gold. So it is still kind of shiny, but it's like that matte gold sort of, gilding, which I really, really prefer. I really prefer the matted, edging on decks, but yeah. And of course, this is basically an RWS clone, but it is a little bit different. Like it does sort of, in some ways, go its own way, but it's pretty typical to RWS, and for the most part, it's a straight up clone, And yeah, and I love it. It's very sweet. Obviously, it makes me happy. It's just a sweet little deck. I haven't gotten any like serious readings from this deck yet, so I don't know how it would do for serious situations, but it certainly makes me happy. So yeah, so this is a pretty easy pick for me. Even the tower card is cute. It's a very, very cute deck, very sweet, very happy. Yeah, and I love it. And in a way, it also sort of makes me think of, and here's a carrot, it also sort of makes me think of my oldest child, because when she was in elementary school, she's an adult now, but when she was in elementary school, she did a big project on capybaras, and for a long time, they were her favorite animals. I don't think she really has a favorite animal anymore, but yeah, so capybaras will probably always make me think of my oldest kid. So there we go. So that is just a deck that makes me happy. So the next category I'm actually skipping, and that's because this one is recommending like a great guidebook, and or a deck with a really great guidebook, and the thing is, I am just not a guidebook gal. I'm just not. I like yeah, I've mentioned before that, my, I don't know if it's learning disability or whatever, but I have a lot of trouble reading, and I do read, and it's not dyslexia, but I have a lot of and I do have ADHD, so I think that's really what contributes to it. I have a lot of difficulty focusing on a book, and so like, I don't read books a lot, and it's a real struggle for me to get through books. And so I honestly just like guidebooks that just have something short and sweet in there. I really don't need pages and pages talking about a single card. It's too much for me, and it kind of overwhelms my brain. So honestly, any little white book that just has, like if it's a deck that has like special kind of artwork or something like curated artwork, or I don't know. There's something to it where it would be nice to have some information on the art. That's fine. And can be really helpful. I mean, I do have some decks that are like, I have a fandom deck. The Sailor Moon deck that I have is the Moon Crystal Tarot, and there's no guidebook for that. There's a PDF, and which I did download, but it just had generic tarot meanings. I really just wanted to find out like which characters they used for which cards. You know, stuff like that is helpful to me. So having a little guidebook on decks like that just gives me some quick information is great. Or just a few quick keywords, or a sentence here or there, like at most a short paragraph is all I really want with a guidebook. Like, so when it gets too wordy, it's overwhelming for me, and so I tend to not like the big guidebooks. So anyway, so that's kind of my answer for that. I don't really have a favorite guidebook for a deck. Yeah, so there we go. I have been, let's see, what am I currently trying to read? Well, I guess I'm not really reading a tarot book. I'm reading, or trying to read, Chaos Magic, and I forget the author's name. If I remember during editing, I'll put it up on the screen. But I'm reading that right now, but I haven't in like a month. So, it takes me an extremely long time to get through a book. So yeah, so there we go. All right, so the next category is another one I don't need to pull out a deck for. And this is a deck that I want by the end of the year. And I actually put 2 decks on here because it's either or, unless there's a really good sale, I'll get both. But, and that is the Star Power or the Moon Power, and this is from Six Sad Girls. Yeah, and I have, of course, the Mars Power, which I use with my Dragon Gods Oracle deck. And I have 2 other of those Japanese decks that I would like to pair with the Star Power and the Moon Power tarot decks. So one of those I definitely want to get by the end of the year, if not both of them. And the Moon Power was out of stock for a long time. It did just come back in stock, but it is like a hollow version, like a holographic sort of version. And I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I don't know if I want to, because I don't want it to not match the other decks that I get, you know what I mean? So like, if one of them is like, has that hollow film on it, I don't know that I want that, So I would rather just have the regular Moon Power. So whenever that one comes in stock, I'll probably snatch it right up. So yeah, either or both, the Star Power or Moon Power. All right. So the next one is a deck I'm going to pull out. A deck that has not been used yet, and it is the third of the third of the decks that I got for Mother's Day, and that is the Witch's Tarot. Now it's not in order because I've shuffled it a few times, and then I did, I pulled out, like when you first get a deck, and so technically I have used it, but, yeah, but, and nudity warning with this deck. There's a lot of nudity in this deck, and I'm going to show it on YouTube because I don't care. If I get flagged somehow for that, then I don't know what I'll do, but, because it's art, so deal with the art. So, but like, yeah, so, but warning for people who are sensitive to nudity, there's a lot of nudity in this deck. This deck is so flippin' beautiful. I'll try to go fast over the ones that have a lot of nudity, but, it's so beautiful. And I've had this deck on my list for a very, very long time. But I hadn't gotten around to finally getting it. And I'm really glad I got it. I got it just before Mother's Day, so technically it wasn't really for Mother's Day, but because I got it right before, but I'm including it in my Mother's Day decks. Yeah, but it's very deep, very serious feeling. It's I'm planning on using this deck actually for like fully using this deck for the first time today. After this video, I'm going to be doing my new moon reading with on Morrigan, and I am going to use this deck with her, and I'm going to see how how it goes. And then I'm actually, I just brought in the, the Ignis Arcana and stuff because, well, I've been using this one for the past week. This week is over, and so it's Monday, and on Mondays I switch out my decks. So I am going to switch it to this one, and I'm going to try to pair it with the Memento Mori Oracle. So yeah, so that's the plan. And my goodness, this is just, it's a beautiful, beautiful deck. And I think I'm also going to use this deck for the final prompt of pulling a card for the next 6 months. So, yeah, so I'm going to set this to the side. And by the way, there's a whole set of, other cards for this deck that's, they are goddesses or something. I pulled them out because I didn't want them in there. But, there's also Maiden Mother Crone, which I'm not happy about. I don't ascribe to the Maiden Mother Crone archetype, so I definitely pulled those out. But some of these are kind of cool. Coven, Ritual Magic. I like these cards. I just don't want them in my tarot deck, Burn at the Stake, Wax. They're extra major arcana cards. Wax, Wane. Ooh, are these stuck together? I don't know. The Druid. Let's see. The cardstock is a little bit rose petally. They shuffle just fine, and I like how kind of thin but still sturdy they are. But they're it's got that kind of rose petally texture to it, and they shuffle fine, but sliding them is a little difficult. So Hecate, which I don't follow Hecate. I don't follow Lilith. I don't follow Hell. I don't follow Selene. So I wouldn't use any of those cards. The other ones I would, but yeah, up until Hecate and the Maiden Mother Crone, these ones I would use, but these ones I wouldn't. So yeah, anyway. All right, so I'll keep this deck out because I will pull a card for the next 6 months from that deck. All right. So it might be booby-y, sorry. All right, so prompt number 12 is a favorite video I've made this year. And I don't have a single favorite video. However, this year I've been trying to do a video for each of the 8 Sabbats. And it's not an informational video. I'm not very good at that kind of stuff. I don't like being a teacher. That's not really my forte. I don't like to teach things to people. So I just like to make videos of people joining me along for the ride. That's kind of my thing. I don't want to teach you anything. You do what you want to do. And yeah, and if you want to join me or watch what I do, then great. That's kind of how I operate with my YouTube videos. But and I've been posting YouTube videos for 15 years, and I have 30 views a video, and so obviously I'm not a very good YouTuber, but it is what it is. I don't know what it is, but my videos just get no traction, and I'm probably kind of boring. So but anyway, but I wanted to do a video for each of the 8 Sabbats this year, and I don't know that I'll actually go through with it and be able to get all 8 of them, because it is, a lot of my rituals and stuff are very spontaneous and very last minute, so they're not really well thought out, and I just kind of do them, and that's not super conducive to filming. So but I am really happy with the 4, I think, that have come out so far. I don't think I did a Yule one because that was last year. I did an Imbolc video, which, some of this I'll put over the screen and show just maybe a little bit of clips from those videos. And I think in my Imbolc video, I know I did a reading during the video, and I also, there's parts of me going out into the woods in my house, or by my house, and tying the Brat Brija to a tree in our yard, and leaving that overnight to be blessed by Brige, the goddess Bridget, and then brought that in and did my reading and stuff on that that altar cloth. So I did that, and that was my video for Imbolc. And then for Ostara, so here's the thing. My practice is mostly Irish paganism, and so the solstices and equinoxes are not really part of my Irish pagan path, but they, I still like to celebrate them, and it probably goes a little bit back to when I was in Wicca, like 20 odd years ago, like 20 plus years ago. And I always really enjoyed just the wheel of the year, the 8 Sabbats. 8 is my favorite number. So, yeah. But because I approach paganism from an Irish paganism perspective, I'm an American, but I practice Irish paganism. I don't know if that makes sense, but anyway, if what I said made sense. But so I've sort of personally associated Ostara, or the spring equinox, even though Ostara is not does not have anything to do with Irish paganism, making that clear. But I've sort of connected it to the Irish god Angus, which, as I said, this is total my own personal gnosis. This is not based on any sort of lore or established practice or anything like that. This is just my own personal thing. So I've kind of personally dedicated the spring equinox to Angus, and so for that, I actually did a full, like, kind of really Wiccan-y ritual for that. And I mean, I'm talking calling the corners. It was very Wiccan-y, and yeah, and that was that. I really enjoyed that. It's been a long time since I've done that full sort of ritual, and so I filmed that, and I was really quite happy with it. It was a lot of fun, and so that's what I did for Ostara, and then Bjoltana. So I've only done 3, because the next one is going to be midsummer, so the summer solstice. So for Bjoltana, which was the one that just passed, I really had no plans. I knew I wanted to do print off the ritual that I participated, online ritual that I participated in with the Irish Pagan School last year. I knew I wanted to print that off and follow along with that ritual, but I didn't want to have that on camera because, of course, that's I don't want to. That's a different group's practice that I didn't want. That is people can participate if they pay for the course, so I didn't want to give away their courses for free, and so I didn't really have that on camera, though I filmed myself doing it, and I had a little bit of a voiceover and stuff. So I did that, but like most of that video was actually me kind of spring cleaning my ritual room and cleaning that up, and that was fun too, and that's what I mean, where I'm not sure that I'll have a video for each of these Sabbats, because sometimes I'm just not even really sure what I'm gonna do until I do it. So I'm not sure what's gonna be filmable and what's not gonna be filmable, but I have really enjoyed the 3 Sabbat videos that I made, and I'm hoping to do videos for the other Sabbats for this year. So please, if you watch this, go check out my Sabbat videos and watch me fumble through some rituals and clean my room and tie a cloth to our tree and all that jazz. All right, so the final prompt is pull a card for the next 6 months, and I am going to use the Witch's Tarot, which is the deck that I'm going to use for the moon reading pretty much right after this video. I'm doing a new moon reading on Morgan, and I'm going to use this deck, so yeah. I love the way this shuffles. Oh, shuffles so nicely. I'm going to do a few shuffles. Thinking about a representation for the next 6 months, and even if I get like a more difficult card, like say the Tower or the 3 of Swords or whatever, I'm not gonna read it like it's a negative card. It's meant as an overall representation for the next 6 months. So you know, there could be a lesson that I need to pay attention to, or something I need to pay attention to, even if it comes up to be a difficult card or something. So just any card that represents the next 6 months for me. So one more shuffle, and then we'll do a little bit of overhand. This deck shuffles very nicely. I also want the companion oracle deck. I think it's Three Moons Oracle or something like that. Yeah, so a card to represent the next 6 months for me. And who knows, I maybe I won't talk too much about it. I'll just pull a card and I don't know. We'll see what it comes up. We'll see what comes up and what I'm willing to disclose. All right, so right here. All right, we have the Three of Wands. That's a good one. And it's Booby E. Sorry, it's Booby E. Maybe I'll keep it still and just like blur out the boob. I don't know. Like, or we can all be adults here and just deal with the boob. Okay. So, and this is lovely. And quite frankly, this woman looks like me. That boob looks like mine. TMI. Sorry. Yeah. So anyway, Three of Wands. Yeah. So a sort of, so moving forward, that's kind of how I see the Three of Wands. This is moving forward. Like, you know, whatever things I've sort of started to plan or started to, because it's right after the Two of Wands, and the Two of Wands is kind of that beginning of planning, and the Three of Wands to me is kind of that stepping forward and going. Like, all right, we've got the plan. Now we need to step forward and actually go. So I'm seeing this as a card of movement and of moving forward. And I think that's a really good card for the next 6 months. So I'm happy with that. And I don't think I'm going to read much more into that. I'm just going to go with that and stick with that. All right. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And I will see you next time. Bye.